For me, I would use the $30,000 towards a house hack because I think house hacking is the single best way to grow your wealth or get started in the real estate and finance game. Hey, what's up, y'all? And thank you for tuning in to the Military Millionaire YouTube channel and the entire community. And today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I got a comment from Humongous Guy 8899 on YouTube, and I'll flash it up on the screen. And it says, "Hey David, joined the Facebook group about a month ago, started following you on this channel. Do you have any videos or advice on people in military academies or how they can use their small income to prepare themselves once they graduate?" Now, I ask this because the Naval Academy, as far as he knows, doesn't allow them to have a huge amount of debt to include a house loan while attending school. Not a bad policy. So is there anywhere else that people like him can direct their money or even make more as an academy student? Thank you, and your videos are so damn helpful. Well, hey, Humongous Guy, I appreciate that. And I just thought it'd be cool to take a moment and just address this, full face, right? And for record, I've got a bunch of different videos on what to do as a young officer and how to prepare. I don't necessarily have anything specific to those in the military academy. So we're gonna wing it and we're gonna talk through a couple of the things that I think are key advantages here. The first, and we'll just hit on this, when you exit, you get that career starter loan, which is, to my knowledge, it's like a 0% or like a 1 or 2% interest loan for like $30,000. Now, I didn't research before starting this video. The amount might have changed or the interest rate might have changed, but point being, it's an extremely low interest rate loan for like 30 grand. And what I see a lot of service members do with this is they go and they think, wow, I've got 30,000, I can buy a nicer car, or I can, whatever that may be. And that's all well and good. I would encourage you to think pretty critically about what you're going to do with that money. And one of the things that I would recommend, if you do want to buy a car, great. I don't see anything wrong with that. I would use it to buy the car cash, right? So you've got like a 0 to 2% whatever loan on your car, essentially. And I would stick with the traditional, like, buy a car that's 6 to 10 years old, that has decent mileage, has good maintenance records, that I always preach, right? The right way to buy a used vehicle, as opposed to, getting sucked into like, I can afford a $100,000 car now and look flashy because I've got 30,000. So it's like only buying a $70,000 car. That's the first piece. Now, what I would do with that, it depends on your long-term goals. For me, I would use the $30,000 towards a house hack because I think house hacking is the single best way to grow your wealth or get started in the real estate and finance game. And that just means you buy like a fourplex, you live in one unit, rent the others. Or what I encourage a lot of young officers to do is you buy like a single family house and then you rent bedrooms out to other young single lieutenants and captains. And this allows you to really capitalize on, essentially what happens is everybody else is paying your mortgage, so you get to live for free or close to it. And then they're also paying less than they most likely would be to live anywhere else, right? Like if they were living on base, they'd cough up their entire BAH. And if they're living off base, odds are they'd be close to their BAH, maybe save a little bit if they had their own apartment, like a small apartment. But by doing the roommate situation, they're most likely able to save like half of their BAH, and you're still able to live for free and save all of your BAH. So it's like a win-win-win. Plus you got cool roommates, and I kind of like the whole roommate, like cool, group housing thing when you're young. I think that's pretty cool, especially if they're like all good guys and gals that jive and you guys like help each other with workouts and goals and things like that. I think that's huge. If you're not going to do either of those two things, like the car or the house hack, for one, you could just not take the money, but I think you throw it at an index fund, like the S&P 500, and just let it ride. Because even if there's a dip in the short term, long term, that's going to absolutely outpace what you would be paying in interest on that loan, and it'll set you up, because that's $30,000 on day one, which is a really good jump start. If you think about that doubling every year for the next 40 years, right? That's, 30 grand becomes 60, becomes 120, becomes 240, becomes 480,000 by the time you're 62, right? So that's halfway to a decent retirement if you never put another dollar in. But obviously you're smart and savvy because you're asking this question, so you probably will continue to contribute to the Thrift Savings Plan or index funds. At least I hope so. Definitely get the TSP 5% matching contribution, and you would say Roth, but however you feel like swinging that. All right, so that was the career starter loan. The other piece to this puzzle you mentioned is not having a lot of debt, right? So like you can't buy real estate while you're in. Yes and no. So I have a good friend, Jake Volan. He went to the Air Force Academy, and while he was at the Air Force Academy, he was getting equity positions on multiple, probably like 4 or 5 multifamily apartment complexes. And these are, huge apartment complexes. And what he had done is he'd figured out that he had a real knack for underwriting deals, the math behind it. And so he was underwriting deals for people, and then he would get, 2, 3, 4, 5% of that purchase deal as a member of the general partnership because he was underwriting the deals for them. So they would send him 10 deals. He would be like, these are the 2 you should go for. They'd go for them. If they got one, he would get a small piece simply because he did all the underwriting and all the numbers and helped them get a better return and structure the deal. And that, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of work, but there's a lot of different ways you could do something like that. And the beautiful thing with this is that's non-recourse debt. So, I've never been to the Naval Academy. For one, it wouldn't be on your credit, so like they wouldn't know. But even if they did find out about that, it's non-recourse, meaning if you didn't pay it, it's not going to come back to haunt you. So it's not anything that could hurt a security clearance or you as a service member. So I can't imagine anyone would be upset about that. That's no different than like investing in an index fund. You get the return, but like you're not going to go to jail or lose a security clearance because you were invested in an index fund, right? Unless there was insider trading involved, I suppose, but then that wouldn't be index fund, that'd be an individual stock, and I'm going to stop before I go down that rabbit hole. So you could find a way to help raise capital or underwrite or do investor relations for like bigger syndication deals where they get non-recourse debt, and you'd still be able to do the real estate sphere. But honestly, what I would encourage you is this. The Naval Academy is no joke. The Air Force Academy is no joke. West Point's no joke. I'm sure there's some other academies, Merchant Marine, whatever, Coast Guard Academy, I don't know. None of them are simple. Even if we talk shit about the Air Force being the Air Force and they just like fly around in their little gliders in Colorado Springs and go hiking on the weekends, it's still the Air Force Academy, and I know that we're just talking shit for the sake of talking shit. Point being, spend your time maximizing that. That is the single most important thing you could be doing right now. That's what sets you up for success going forward. That's what's going to help you in the long run, is really succeeding at school while you're making all those networks or the networking and everything else. So I would focus on networking at the academies. I'd focus on your school at the academies. If you do have the free time to worry about financial stuff, I would spend your time with podcasts, audiobooks, and physical books. I would spend your time educating, networking, meeting people around you, and really setting up like the groundwork while just saving whatever you can. You're young, you're hungry. While there is a benefit to investing early, by delaying that a little bit just so that you can actually like physically focus on the single most important education piece you're ever going to go through, right? And the most prestigious school you're ever going to attend, most likely. I would focus on that and continue to just reap the benefits of education on the side. Because while college is great, I'm personally a fan of like self-education. And I think YouTube University, podcasts, books, and things like that, if targeted at specific skills that you want to learn, can be infinitely more powerful than simply a college education. And I think if you focus in on that and you really learn like what aspects of real estate you like, what aspects of financial freedom securities you like, what your strategy is going to be, and then you network with people who are doing that, who have done that, who are in your community. And then while doing all that, I would focus on, in the Naval Academy, networking with people, talking to them about your goals, talking to them about what you're doing. And here's why. Every single person at the Naval Academy will eventually end up with the potential to be an investor of yours, right? They are all service members and vets who are going on to be officers. They're going to have a good salary. If they're smart, they're going to save money. As they progress in rank, they may even become accredited investors based off income alone, let alone net worth. So there's a very high likelihood that they can, or at least they know people who can invest in your deals. And I would start really focusing in on just like when you talk to people at the Naval Academy, like talk about what you're doing in school, but also, also I'm a buy and hold real estate investor, or I'm a boutique hotel investor, or whatever that might be, and really hone in on that story, because that network could be the basis of your ability to raise capital for bigger deals down the road. So if you're laying the groundwork of financial education and networking from a capital raise perspective, you're setting yourself up for dramatic success down the road without having to worry about the liabilities. That's probably where I'd be focused, right? The TSP, you can do the 5% matching contribution. You absolutely should. I think you should contribute more to that when you can. The career starter loan, using that for, housing, buying a car cash, or like index funds to just let it roll, and really just saving and educating yourself. I'm sure there are a bunch of other ways that you can dabble, but that would be my go-to. And I think the educating and the networking is probably the biggest component here, and is where I would focus the most of my attention and be the most intentional. So there's some books out there like How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Like Switch. There's one, it's not Eat That Frog. There's another one about like networking specifically. And I would focus in on kind of those skills for how to get to know people and build relationships and foster that, just so that you can be more efficient in that capability later on down the road. Because you as an officer have a unique pool of people that you know or will know that is probably a lot more conducive to raising money than me as an enlisted Marine, right? Like, let's be real. When I was a sergeant, most of my peers were like broke as shit sergeants in the Marine Corps. Maybe they had a little bit of money, but definitely not invested in apartment complex money or foresight. Whereas on the officer side, that's much more likely, especially when you get to like captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, whatever. Your peer group is going to have capital. They're going to be more long-term thinkers, and they're not going to be dismissive of your goals, not nearly as much anyway. So hope this helps. I love the name Humongous Guy. Now I'm just like, I'm envisioning like the dude from Green Mile. So, don't disappoint. Or maybe do. Maybe you're like 5'2", 110, and that would be hilarious. But hope you got something out of this. Thanks for following the channel. And I'm going to make sure that I comment on I'm going to reply to your comment once this video goes live with the link so you see it. And best of luck at the Naval Academy. Stay in touch. I look forward to hearing about your success. Anyone else, if you got something out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, follow along, and thanks for tagging on.